I'm Rabbi Jay Karzen.
And I'm Rabbi Ruby Ray Karzen.
And Tape with Rabbi Doug is next.
Go to watch Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.
Forget about the network programs. Forget about all the great cable shows. There's only one thing for me on Mondays and Tuesday nights. Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna watch Rabbi Doug. Yeah, we're gonna watch Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. Back with me once again, our most popular guests, Rabbi Jay and Ruby Ray Karzen. And welcome back to Chicago. Welcome back to the show. So glad you could both be here once again. From Jerusalem, visiting Chicago once again, and family and friends and congregations, and making the rounds on your speaking engagements as well. And we're so glad to have you back. I know there's so much you both have to share today. Certainly, since the last time you were here, we have the disengagement in Gush Katif. We have a lot of changes in Israeli culture and architecture, and what's new in Israel?
First, let me say, one of the, I think, most exciting things, and it's an occasion, I think, of Jewish pride and Jewish simcha, the fact that the announcement recently that the Jewish population of Israel is now 5.6 million Jews, which is an all-time high, of course. Since 1948, when the state was created with 500,000 Jews, we've risen now to 5.6 million, which means in another year or two, we will be the largest Jewish community in the world.
It's amazing.
Passing America, which has unfortunately a low birth rate and a too high death rate. And it's mind-boggling that Israel will be the largest Jewish community in the world. And
that's the way it should be.
It should be, yeah. We should never be that. And interestingly, people are coming from all over the world. Obviously, the Nefesh for Nefesh program has brought thousands of Americans. But then just
and Canadians.
And Canadians, of course. And in the last few months, in one day alone, 550 or so French people from Marseille came en masse. They came en masse. They brought 10 Sifrei Torah with them, starting their own little community, their own little community. I have a picture. It shows people coming off the plane with one Sefer Torah, but there were 10 Sifrei Torah, and this was the largest Aliyah in one day of French Jews. So in addition to Americans and Canadians, Ethiopians and Russians, of course, which was always a massive Aliyah, the French are coming now, and our neighborhood is filled with French people.
And it's interesting that they intend to settle in a place called Har Homa, which is right south of Jerusalem. It's the newest neighborhood, and they intend to make it a little Marseille. And we'll have a little Marseille in Jerusalem.
Now, 10 Torah scrolls coming from France to Israel. Is this because a whole congregation of people closed their congregation, and they all moved together?
Absolutely. 2-3 synagogues. People from 2-3 synagogues got together.
That's one thing. We have a short show, so I just want to tell you another thing. We have a new Nobel Prize winner. One of the former Americans now living in Israel, who happens to be our neighbor, and we go to the same synagogue, we pray together.
I know it was in the news. What's his name?
Yisrael Alman. He won the Nobel Prize for his economics.
You have a picture of him here?
There's a picture too, yes, with a beard, a kippah, suga, little kippah. And he's our neighbor, as I said. He's my shul partner. We daven together, and it's a proud thing that another Jewish male and American Israeli, has won the Nobel Prize.
And this is in what? In
economics.
Economics.
In economics.
And boy, do we need it.
Well, maybe it'll change things in Israel for the better.
It would be good.
So, Rebbetzin, tell me what's new in beauty. In beauty and change in Israel. Certainly, we know that things are a little bit quieter.
Yes.
For the first time in years, and that's certainly a comfortable thing. And no one knows how long that'll last, or if it'll last a long time, God willing. But what's new on the beauty of Israel?
One of the newest things that we are going to have a brand new bridge to the entrance of Jerusalem. And this is a very, very famous gentleman, Calatrava, and he is from Spain. And he had, can you see this? It is a suspension bridge, and this is going to be our new entrance to Jerusalem in another 2 years or so. And this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I hope you can see it. Very, very exciting. Of course, I have to tell you that the city of Jerusalem, there is so much going on. There's so many public works that the city it's impossible to move. I mean, it's not that big of a central part of the city. And what happened was that because it's so difficult, because now the bridge breaking up all kinds of streets, they put a moratorium on work from before Rosh Hashanah, the high holidays, to after Sukkot, because it was impossible to move. They figured that's one less problem that the Jerusalemites will have. So they won't be working on the streets.
This bridge is going to replace the road that wound around the mountain where you see the big greenery.
Not replace. This is right by the, you'll still have that.
It's a light rail system. On Route 9 light rail, so that traffic, a little train to take you into downtown Jerusalem.
Really? Amazing.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of new things. I mean, like I always try and tell you the new technological thing. There's a new accordion pill for Parkinson patients where they could never get the drug. They would never get the drug to go in the correct time frame. And now a firm in Israel has a new time release pill. The first thing it's a little accordion. It really looks like. And it's going to be first used on Parkinson's patients. I mean, that's an incredible thing. And for the first time, I want you to know, for the first time, Israel has more forested land, percentage-wise, than any other country in Asia or Africa.
Wow.
The first time, because we have been planting trees
per capita.
and other people, per capita, it's always per capita, because we have been planting trees and other people have been deforesting them, and and for the first time in history, we have more than anybody else.
Wow.
It's still a little bit, but it's better than ever. And we have another really nice thing for all you people that come to Jerusalem soon. We have a new tourist on and off double-decker bus. Is that a fun thing? It's bright, yes, it's bright fire engine red, and we see the tourists getting on and off and going to these museums.
Is there just one, or is it?
There's just one.
Hold on.
It's a small city. We only have one now, but it replaced the old 99 line, if anybody remembered that. And you have this bright red bus going around the city. It's such fun to see it. Of course, there's a lot of happy faces too.
Let me ask you.
And it's open air on top.
We were in England and Scotland recently, and they have hundreds of them. We have one.
Last time we were here, you had mentioned something about that people weren't riding buses so much anymore; they were taking cabs. Now that things are a little quieter, is the bus riding become back to what it was?
I think so. The fares have gone up as usual, you know. Oh, actually, some of the fares went down for senior citizens. They went down, but yeah, the bus. Most people still do not have private cars. It's a good thing. We'd be choked. We wouldn't be able to move, and there's way too many cars to begin with. But the buses are a regular part of the transportation. Absolutely, you have to have them. You have to have them.
What about as far as schools and army duty and things like that in Israel? Is that pretty much a calm, moving thing? Of course, during disengagement, which recently took place from Gaza, from Gush Katif, there were people who dissented and they refused to do their service and things. Are things back to normal in that way?
It's a difficult question. That's a difficult question to answer because you have different opinions. You have right and left and so forth. People who are on the right and who are right-wingers and left-wingers. But the army is still the pride of Israel. It's our army, and those people who refuse to serve and do that, there was a very, very controversial thing, whether they should listen to the rabbis, listen to the generals, and the truth of the matter, most people listen to the generals. The rabbis, God bless them, are great Torah scholars, but when it comes to disobeying the orders of the army, if every soldier would decide to disobey the rules of the army, it would be chaos. It would be a disaster for Israel. And I think most of the young people realize that, and some ask to be relieved from certain duties on that day and to do other things and so forth. but it never turned out to be a mass dissension from the army.
right.
Everybody
Can I
collaborated.
show this one picture?
Sure, absolutely.
That's the only thing, otherwise let's go to other things. Here is a picture that was before and after. And you can see how before there are homes and beautiful gardens. In fact, I was standing in the Beit Kalim not too long ago, and I'm in front of the community center, and on one side I turned to my left and I saw beautiful, the white sands, it's like Bermuda, it was like Bermuda, and palm trees and the sea, and on the other side I turned my head and the same thing, white sands and palm trees and trees. It's not there anymore, but this is what we had.
But the irony is, after we left Gush Katif, rightly or wrongly, I mean, that's again, you have the controversy, half the country.
It's done.
It's done. What happened was the very next day, every synagogue was destroyed by
The burning, the
the
fire.
Arabs.
Community
And we
centers.
left Jewish community centers. We felt we'll leave something for our cousins. We'll leave them the Jewish community centers. They'll have all the sports equipment. They'll have gymnasiums.
Left
They'll have,
everything in there.
and that was destroyed the very first day. And then a millionaire Jew in America gave $14 million and bought all the hot houses.
About two
because
hot houses,
there's
two of the largest
so
ones.
much of Gush Katif was agricultural, vegetables, fruits, and so
Well, it
forth.
was the largest
Yeah.
exporter
Right.
of
And
leafy
so they-
vegetables
right,
in the Middle East.
So they gave all this, they left it would be a gift, a goodwill gesture to the Arabs, that they'll start off, at least the first days, they'll have business to do.
Because there were
That-
many Arabs that worked there.
Right.
Hundreds of
And within
thousands.
one day, that was all burned too. So you're talking, it's hard for American mentality to conceive how it is possible that you burn synagogues, you burn Jewish communities, I said Jewish communities,
Community centers.
Community centers. They weren't Jewish anymore, they were now Arab community centers, and hot houses, business, livelihood for people, and whatever happened was, it was all destroyed, and we're talking about,
But you know, can we get back to something? This is a period, it was very painful, even to today. I'm still wearing my orange bracelet, as you can see. But there are so many other things. Let's bring people the things that they never would read about in the newspaper, things that they don't know. The cultural things that we like to tell you about. For example, I had mentioned last time, 2 times ago already, tell you about this wonderful Russian Aliyah that we have, who have given the country so much culture, music,
orchestras.
art, ballet. And the funniest thing is, would you believe, about 3 months ago, they opened a ballet school, not far from my house. I live in central Jerusalem, and it's run by one of the prima ballerinas of the Kirat Ballet.
Really?
I mean, you're sending your 6, 7-year-old daughter
To work
to a
with
school who was run by this prima ballerina. I got to think about that. I mean, that's really something. And you know, we have over 120 orchestras. Every place has, every kibbutz has an orchestra, every city has an orchestra, a symphony orchestra, a cultural event. And have you ever seen our opera house? People who come to Israel, you must go see the opera house.
In Tel Aviv.
It's like a golden wedding cake. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I've got to tell you about the complex in Tel Aviv. They have the opera house, which is this golden wedding cake. It's gorgeous. And on one side is the Habima Theater, and you have plays there. And then the third side is the ballet. And whatever event is playing that night, there are blue tile lights that go to that theater. It's remarkable.
Really?
And sometimes when I sit in these events, and I think, you know, we Israelis have had it kind of hard. We have had it kind of hard. It's coming to us that we should have such a wonderful cultural experience, and we do have it. There is so much culture in Israel.
theater.
So much culture. And
Even have English theater in Jerusalem.
not a lot. Not a
Not a lot, but we
There-
have
there's
like
English.
JEST, Jest, the Jewish Jerusalem English-speaking theater, and there's others. There's 2 or 3 theaters like that, where there's 2 or 3 or 4 times a year English plays, musicals, serious drama.
It's nice. You know what? It's so nice to hear positive
Exactly.
about Israel,
That's
because
what I want to
when
tell
we pick
you.
up the newspaper and we look about Israel, we say the government is fighting, the parliament, the Knesset is fighting about this and this, and will the prime minister survive a vote coming up? And you know, will there be a split in this party and nobody agrees? And there was a shooting in this place. I mean, this is what we see in the newspaper. We don't see what we're talking about today.
That's why we're telling you. But I've got to tell you, you know what our latest pastime we have done for the past 2-3 years? We study together. We're each other's study partner, chavruta in Hebrew. And then every once in a while, we will take the nach we will take the Bible, and we will follow the trail of some part of when the Jewish people,
The prophets and
the prophets,
kings.
where they follow, where they walk, and it gives us names, and we're living in the same names. We're living in the same places, and we will take the book. A year ago or so, we went to the grave of Dan. Nobody thinks of Dan. Dan was the son of Jacob. You know, nobody thinks of
One of the 12 tribes.
One of the 12 tribes, but it's not too popular. But you want to hear an interesting
Where is he
fact?
buried, first of all? Tell
He's
us.
buried
Near
not-
Beit Shemesh.
Right, near
Right.
Beit Shemesh, which is not far from Jerusalem. You want to hear an interesting fact? Nobody knows this, but we found this out. Their tribe was the lost and found. When they were coming from, when they were moving through the desert, coming to Israel. And what they do, if you lost a pot, you lost something, you go to somebody in the tribe of Dan, and they had this huge warehouse kind of thing that they moved along with them, and you found your pot. Isn't that interesting?
That's
A
very
lost and
interesting.
found. Who would ever think of
Shabbat
that?
Aveda.
Now, are there other sons of Jacob that we know their burial places besides Joseph's grave and Dan? Because,
Yeah.
Well, Joseph in Shem.
right, we know where Joseph's grave is.
Right.
in
Yeah,
Shechem.
that's one, the most famous one, of course.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and of
know
course,
they're all-
them and the
they're not sons of
Pharaoh,
Jacob,
right?
right?
Right, no, oh, you're
Talking about the tribes,
specifically.
the tribes.
There are, but you know, a lot of them are historical. You know what I mean? They're not so sure. Even this dad, we assume through historical proof that it is the grave, and it really is not fixed.
Well, there are
up.
people who question Joseph's grave also.
For
But
sure.
in Rachel
For
too,
sure.
Rachel's tomb in
Right,
Bethlehem.
right.
There are people who even question whether
Really?
that's because there's a lot of reasons to doubt whether that was the official place. Nobody questions Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Nobody questions the cave of Mount
The Arat HaMachpelah, that is, I mean, generally accepted by everyone. But even Rachel's tomb, Kever Rachel, in Bethlehem is.
I know my daughter wears, you know, they send out for tzedakah envelopes. We get at this time of year so many, and my daughter wears a red thread that they say they wrapped around the kever Rachel, around the and for a bracha from Rachel,
Yes.
and they send out pieces of it for people to wear as bracelets. And my daughter wears it.
I will tell you that it's really against the iron horror, right? That's the red
against
string.
iron horror.
But I have seen it, and they really
Evil
do.
eye.
The thing is, the tomb is huge. I mean, it's not like we think
Right.
of it. Look great. And they do go around with the red string and red string, probably 100 times, and it's huge. And then I saw them; they were cutting him up. So it really is from the.
But they
it
also
really was
did
from the
their
tomb.
part of the wedding dress of the
Yes.
late young lady who was killed on the eve of her wedding, Applebaum.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nava.
Applebaum. They have part of her dress as the paroches, her wedding dress, by the Kever Rachel.
The curtain.
The family
Yes.
donated it. It's very moving when you see it.
Yeah, it is. It is. And there's more things, okay?
So,
I want to
please.
tell you more things I was thinking while we were preparing. You know that there's over 100 publications every single day in Israel, every language.
Like newspapers
Yeah.
and
magazines and periodicals and all kinds of things. And the languages like Bulgarian and Latvian. You have to remember, we are a country of so
Multicultural.
many languages. And I want you to know there are 17 Russian newspapers every day. You know how many English there are? 2. There's the Jerusalem Post, which most people are familiar with, and then there's the Haaretz, who has an English section. But you know, people should know. So those are dailies. But there is a magazine that comes out twice a month, every 2 weeks, and it's called the Jerusalem Report.
It's like
And
Time and
people-
Newsweek.
And we get that here in America too.
And everybody should get it, because that's where you find out really what's going on in Israel. I don't always like their point of view, but however, the technology, interesting
We've
things that are
noticed,
going
we've
on.
noticed here in America, we've seen the Tribune, the Sun-Times, we've watched a little bit of television, and you see an article about Israel every few days. You know, when there's no news, it's good news, you know. But the things that are happening on a daily basis, the average Jew doesn't know. People see me in the street will say, what's new in Israel? What's going on? Like you're asking what's going on. And most of the people have no conception of how to find out what's going on. And the internet, though, was a tremendous
Our
source.
Sheva
Yeah,
is
there's
really my daily source of news, and now there's a video that comes out every day, video news from Israel.
Really?
Jerusalem One,
Oh,
Jerusalem One video news, which comes out every day.
In
Just
English.
amazing in English, And it's amazing, you know, to go on the internet and watch the news in Israel.
You could take the Jerusalem Post off the internet.
Right,
You can certainly go online and read that every day.
Online, if you have the right connections, the right
Or a person could get the international edition at their home also once a week.
Correct.
Which is an update of the weekly. But really, it is so different than looking in the American papers or the local papers.
But everything that happens in Israel affects us directly. When we talk about what happens in America, whether the Republicans, Democrats win, whether you like Bush or don't like Bush, or if you voted for him or you didn't, it doesn't really affect your life terribly, you know, much
On a daily basis.
But in Israel, every major decision of the Knesset has an impact on our lives.
Every Sunday morning there's a cabinet meeting. By Monday afternoon, things have changed. I mean, it's so, you know, the Knesset we can see from our window. There are times when we really want to throw tomatoes at it. You know that.
Yeah.
But everything is so direct, absolutely direct.
Well, it's kind of similar to the city council compared to, because Israel is such a small country. When the city council makes a law, for example, that you can't hold a cell phone while you're driving in the city of Chicago, it changes everybody's lives. Everybody has to get wireless or wired earpieces. It affects everyone's lives. The Knesset,
We have that too.
We have a very strong law.
1,000 shekel fine.
For the first time, 1,500 shekels.
If you're driving with a phone in your hand.
And the third time, you lose your license for 3 months. They don't fool around. Because
So-
the Israelis are not such
but
great
of
drivers
course,
to begin with.
the government decisions in Israel are pretty much universal. You don't have so much local municipalities making the
Correct.
laws as much as you do the government
If
making
you're
laws
a
for the
religious
country.
Jew, of course, the amount of Torah study in Jerusalem is unprecedented. There has never been a time in all of Jewish history when more Torah is being studied, more yeshivot. There's 1 or 2 yeshivot in Israel, for example, that are so big that all the yeshivas in Europe, during the heyday of Europe before the Holocaust, didn't have as many students as one yeshiva, the Mir yeshiva in Jerusalem, Panovich. They have thousands of students. All the yeshivas in Europe together didn't come up to even half that, you know. So.
It is, people don't understand that unless they know, but that's a very true thing. As a matter of fact, you know, there's just right here locally in Chicago, there's a growth from when I was a child, Zionist youth group movements, B'nai Akiva, for example, religious Zionist youth, was very, very popular. People went to Israel. It was after high school. That's what people did. Or if they didn't go right after high school, they went during college. They went to yeshiva. They went to Israel. They got involved. These were the B'nai Akiva people. For the last 15, 20 years, they died down so much and changed. And all of a sudden, there's a resurgence of it. People, again, when they finish high school, they're going to Israel. B'nai Akiva, last Shabbat in B'nai Akiva in the Chicago area, there were over 100 children attending SNF B'nai Akiva on Shabbat. You know, it's just an amazing thing. It's a wonderful thing. You see, as it changes in Israel for the better, it changes outside Israel for the better.
I work at the Kotel, as you know, at the Western Wall with bar mitzvahs and so forth. And
You're not handing out those paper yarmulkes.
No.
So you're doing
They've raised the machitza a little. They've lengthened the prayer area too. They put it back a third, so it's a third larger now. They moved the wall back 1/3, so the prayer area is now massive. And to see on a regular weekday morning between 5,000 and 10,000 worshipers, forgive that word, it doesn't sound like a daveners, worshipers, people who come to pray. 10,000 people, and about Monday to Thursday when there's bar mitzvah days, you can have 15,000, 20,000 people on a typical morning. It's an awesome thing.
It's an amazing thing. You know, when we turn on one of the websites that show the Kotel Live, the Western Wall Live, to see the crowds, if you turn it on here at nighttime when it's, you know, around midnight, when it's 8 a.m. No, midnight in Chicago, it's 8 a.m. there, the shot rate people are all there. It's packed. It's packed. It's packed. It's amazing here. You're about 8 hours ahead generally during most of the year in Israel from Chicago. And to see so many people on a work day, it's a work day. People have to go to school and go to work. They're at the Kotel davening in the morning.
It's an incredible thing. And from Mincha and Ma'ariv all afternoon. I mean, there's always people. Sometimes Saturday night after Shabbos, people will. There's still their Shabbos finery. That's the thing to do. So they're going to Ben Yehuda Street or to the mall. They come to the Kotel. It's all lit up. It's all beautiful at night with the lights, and it's just the most peaceful, serene, calming. It's a nice way to start a new week.
Let's talk about the change in traveling to the Kotel, because I think for people who've been to Israel, that many aren't aware. Now, when I was in my 20s, going to the Kotel was walking through the Arab Shuk to the shortcut to the Kotel. That isn't popular anymore, maybe for safety reasons or other reasons.
I do it when I have to go on Shabbat for our mitzvah. I walk through the Arab Shuk because it's the fastest way to go. But I always walk with others. I don't walk by myself. There's always soldiers there.
The Armenian Quarter became the most popular way to go down there.
It takes a little longer.
It takes a little longer. Is there a more popular way now to go to the Kotel? Do people? Let's not talk about Shabbat particularly, but most people do walk when they go to the Kotel once they come in the gates of the old city. Are people taking cabs? Are people more, getting on buses to go there more?
If the cabs can move, I mean, because the traffic is so ridiculous.
Cabs don't like to go into the old city because it takes so long for them to drag around, the snake path to get down to the Kotel.
I have a really great story. A year ago, Tisha B'Av was on Wednesday, and I always go to one of the women's yeshivot to listen to a good shiur. And the rabbi was talking about how in the Second Temple times that there were nobody in Jerusalem. They had to have lots that people would live in Jerusalem. Nobody wanted to live in Jerusalem. They would live north, south, all over, not in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was really desolate. And he said that the prophet Zechariah said that one day that Jerusalem would be so teeming with people that you couldn't walk on the streets. All right, this is Wednesday, all right? Thursday morning, he has a bar mitzvah, and I'm going to pick him up, and it takes me 45 minutes from my house to get him at the Kotel. 45 minutes, and I'm laughing. I said, this is the prophecy of Zechariah that here you couldn't get through the streets. Jerusalem was so crowded.
Amazing.
The next day.
Amazing. We're here on Taped with Rabbi Doug, and I'm here with Rabbi Jay Karzen and Rabbanit Rebbitzin Ruby Ray Karzen, and we're talking about what's going on in Israel, and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm David Broza, and you're watching Tape with Rabbi Doug.
Welcome back. We're here again with Rabbi Jay Karzen, Rebbitzin Ruby Ray Karzen here
So I want to tell you something funny.
Taped with Rabbi Doug, and what do you want to tell me?
I just got to tell you one funny thing. So many funny things happen in Israel, but one time, when you go to the zoo, we have a wonderful new Jerusalem Biblical, is a wonderful, wonderful new. And you're standing there and you're watching whatever you're watching, any of the animals, and all of a sudden you will hear an announcement, Mincha prayers. Afternoon prayers will be in 5 minutes by the lions. And it is really funny, by the lions. And the other thing I got to tell you, we just Passover comes around every year, right? And for the zoo is totally kosher for Pesach. Totally kosher for Pesach. The gorillas get matzah, and the parrots get rice.
Oh my God.
Because that's like
Sephardi.
the starting, right? Exactly. Can you believe it? The whole zoo is kosher for Pesach.
That's amazing.
Where else would you hear this except from us?
It's wonderful. I can't tell you how glad I am that we were able to do the show. Time runs by so quickly, but Baruch Hashem, you two are able to come to America once or twice a year, usually once a year, but sometimes twice. And I hope that we will continue this on our next trip and talk
If we
more.
wouldn't come, how would we be on your show?
I'd have to come to you, which is I want to thank all of you for being with us. I want to thank Rabbi and Mrs. Karzen for being with us. We hope to see you next week, same time, same place. Remember, check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com. And we hope to see you next time right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.